me, Sean Capri, and welcome to We the GamerCast. It publishes on podcast at youtube.com/Capri every single Monday. Patrons get it first. Thank you guys for subscribing, hitting the like button, leaving comments in the YouTube video, telling your mom, telling your friend, telling your dad, telling all your pets. Oh man, the throat. I think that's all I have on the throat, you guys. I'm gonna fake it till I make it. Thank you guys so much for listening and for all the things. I think I just thanked you for all that. Can I thank you too much? That's okay. Hopefully you guys are doing great. You're in for a real treat here, as I think you were last week. But guys, I'm getting way ahead of myself because if you're new, here's the deal. Every week I have sweet hangs with a friend or a stranger from the internet. We talk about life and video games. And if you want to be on the show, it's pretty easy. You just tweet at me. Tweet at me at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. As a couple of you have recently. This is kind of nice, actually. It's been great. We're scheduling up into February at this time. We're midway through January. We made it. We're officially in 2022. Are you guys still writing down 2021? Whenever the time comes for you have to write down a date. This happened more like when we were in school. Some of you might be in school. You know, at the top of the page, you're like, what's the date? And you scribble it out. You're like, it's not 2021 anymore. Maybe just me. Guys, we're going to get right into it here because I don't know if my throat's if it's going to make it here. But I want to draw your attention to a couple things. Number one, last week, the Uncanny Omar. What a great conversation about comics. So if you missed that, you can go back there. We talk all about comics. That was a dream come true to have Omar on the show as we just get rolling here in 2022. I'm going to thank some of our patrons in just a moment. But guys, before I even do that, there's something special happening in the Discord, the Yumi Capri Discord. It's free to join. You don't have to be a patron to join the Discord. It's called the Backtrackers. And that's really what I'm going to be talking to Marcus O'Neill about today. It's a video game book club. We pick a game. Actually, the community really picks the game. You go ahead and play it, and then you go meet up. It's like a book club, but for video games. I think is pretty self-explanatory. And we're going to talk a lot about that with Marcus. And this is something that's like really, I think it's really special because it's community driven. Ryan and I, we really don't have much at all to do with it. And Marcus O'Neill and Delroy, they met up and they wanted to create this thing that brings people together, man, and highlight some of the games that maybe we missed. And Marcus will talk a lot more about it and say it way better than I can in the show. So if you're at all interested, the next meetup is for the game is called The Forgotten City. The next meetup is on Saturday, January 22nd. It's not a long game. It's on Game Pass. If you don't have Game Pass, but you do have an Xbox and can't get your hands on this game, reach out to me. I just have one code, so the first come, first serve. But I can give away a code for The Forgotten City so you guys can jump in and play this. You've got about, patrons have about a week. Free feeds, this hits on Monday, so you got about 5 or 6 days. But tons of time, man. This is not a long game. And as Marcus and I are going to chat about, you don't need to beat the games, you know, to jump in and chat about these. Ryan and I do this every week on the Xbox Drive. Cato and I especially on the Nintendo Drive. We don't beat games. We just talk about them. So feel free, guys. It's a great time, and I'm really excited. I think this is only just going to continue to grow, and I'm really happy and proud of the guys for bringing this forward. Now, if you like the show, if you like the community, if you want to support all this stuff, you can go to patreon.com/YumiCapri. You get this show early. You get a feed for all the shows, which is super helpful. And at $3 and up, you get exclusive content like the Console War Room, where a couple weeks ago we launched an episode where we did a fantasy critic draft, and it is awesome. You get me doing the Pants Patreon podcast for Patrons podcast. It's a Ask Me Anything kind of thing and goes anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour. So feel free, guys. Go over to patreon.com. We're almost at 70 people. We can't quite crack 70. I would love to crack 70. That would be great. And I want to welcome in TPR and welcome back Drew Agnew. Thank you guys so much for your support at patreon.com. You join the ranks of some pretty incredible people like our Capremium producers, Dallas Ford, Lee Navarro, who's the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team, and Johnathan Brown, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the Nintendo Drive. And I'm going to talk about Johnathan Brown even more in just a moment. Our Platinum producers, Robbie Bobby Miller and Trucker Sloth, and all of our Gold members, Argo, Brendan Myers, Dallas Robbins, Dano, Emily O'Kelly, Foolish Fuji, Joel Brooks, Jose Jimenez, Mac Time, Marcus O'Neill, Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots, RJ Kern, Skinny Matt, and Xavier Reyes. You guys are all absolutely incredible. You blow me away. And so, yeah, I just mentioned Johnathan Brown. You're going to hear his music because you heard it last week. You're going to hear it this week. You're going to hear it the next week because Johnathan Brown just launched an album on Spotify and Apple, iTunes, all the things. It's called In My Element, PME, stands for Purple Monkey Entertainment. We're going to launch into my conversation with Marcus O'Neill with this, and all the links are in the show notes. Go download it, go stream it. I just listened to it while I'm working, and it is perfect. Johnathan Brown, congratulations on the launch, my friend. Now, Marcus O'Neill. Marcus O'Neill has become just a wonderful friend over the last couple of years. His first appearance on We the GamerCast was on October 12th, 2020, so you can actually go back and get a whole other story. Like, we're going to kind of like jump into where life is, where he's at right now with life. But if you want to know how did we get here, there's a great episode, October 12th, 2020. Go back and listen. He's an absolutely stand-up guy. Every time I talk to him, I feel better. So please enjoy this conversation. And also please join him and Delroy with the rest of the Yumi Capri community with the Backtrackers. So without further ado, here he is, my friend and yours, Marcus O'Neill. I was just suntanning on my porch.
You might as well take advantage. We don't know how long this is going to last here.
I was going to wear a garbage bag over my skin and just sweat out a couple pounds. Here, that's... Have you ever done any sort of like insane, extreme... I don't even know why. I feel like the only reason you'd have to do that is to like cut weight for a fight or like a weigh-in or something.
Have I personally ever done that?
Yeah, have you ever tried to cut weight like intensely in like a 24-hour period for any reason?
What do you think? Do you think I am somebody that would be doing something like that? I don't know. No, definitely not. No.
I mean, look, I don't come into these things with any sort of like preconceived notions, I don't think. I like to try to keep an open mind, and
sure.
Maybe that was the thing that you did one time that you discovered, hey, there's got to be a better way, and set you on the path to where you are now.
Yes. No, I have never worn a garbage bag to sweat to try to make weight for something. No.
I've seen a guy do it. I've watched somebody do it. He hopped into a sauna at the U of A. They're just like, what is this guy? Like he had, you could see like the edges of the garbage bag, but he was wearing like a jumpsuit, like a sweatsuit. So he was like really going, and he was in there for far too long. Like it was, I don't know anything about that stuff. In a sauna, like you could just do that just in a room, dude. Like you don't have to amp it up that much.
Well, I guess it depends on how many pounds you got to cut.
I guess. I mean, these people doing. Have you ever done hot yoga? Have you ever done anything even close to that?
No, I have no. Not a yoga guy. No, my wife tried to get me into it a little while ago. Years ago now. But, I adopted a few stretches, which I don't still do, just for running and to keep loose and things like that. But that's the extent of my yoga. Yeah.
Just the classic, like stand on one foot, grab the other, stretch the old quad. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hamstrings mostly for me.
Hammies, yeah.
Let's get real tight. What
do you like, man? This continues every time I fall out of shape and want to get back into it. It's flexibility for me. That is big time. And it's like, I woke up this morning, and maybe it's just because it's top of mind, but I kind of did like one of those, like, I just kind of put my arms up and out.
Yep.
And like, I felt every single angle of motion, just like in the shoulders and the chest and the back and the everything, man. Like it's post-Christmas. I did this to myself, but this is my cycle.
That was the time. Well, in fairness, it has been ridiculously cold outside. So you have a completely valid excuse, or at least that's what I'm telling myself, because I haven't been out. I think I might go for a run tomorrow morning because now it's gotten so nice out, and try and get back into a little bit more of a routine.
I remember it must have been actually, well, you were probably on the show about this time last year, maybe December last year, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was a little earlier, like maybe October-ish.
Yeah, because I mean, we're definitely talking about adoption and everything, and what you were looking to do, and that obviously has come a long way. But I remember just before that, like you had gone for a run and you took a picture of like your beard, your eyelashes, eyebrows, everything frozen over.
Yeah. Now I get that just taking the dog for a walk.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's been cold.
What's the coldest you can take the dogs out?
I don't have a choice. He needs to go out. So we've got he handles the cold pretty good. And he just needs to burn off the energy because he's still young. He's only he's not even 3 years old yet. So he needs the energy. He really needs interaction, which we haven't really been able to do because you can't take him out for any real length of time, but we have booties for him, which he hates and tries to kick them off. We have a coat which we put on him, but I think that's more just for us to make us feel better. I don't think he really needs it, even if it's minus 30.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he needs it. He needs it. He's out 4 walks a day. One of them is usually like a good hour.
Good for you. Holy cow. Yeah. Even lately?
Even lately.
Wow.
Maybe not quite an hour, probably more like half an hour, but it's still a decent walk. Yeah. You get
my gosh.
Up, John's on.
I like it, man. You're always just like, whatever it takes. Just like, do it.
Gotta do it.
Pretty rock solid, man. I'm like, nah, that's pretty cool. Like, and it's not even that it's pretty cold. Like, this is the thing. Like, I keep walking back and forth on this. Like, when I talk to you, I feel like I'm just making up excuses. But at the same time, like, I'm sorry, it's minus 35 out, you guys. Like, cars aren't starting.
I don't enjoy it.
Of course not.
Yeah. It's it's just one of those things. Honestly, like, when it comes to walking the dog, as an example, it's just like I could either take him for a walk and like a half an hour walk, or deal with him having only let him outside, which is way worse. I'd rather just bite the bullet and get out there for half an hour, and then at least he's a little bit more subdued. So
it's like the best kind of like instant gratification that you typically don't get from a walk, like exercise in general. Like, you go for a walk and you're like, I don't notice a difference. Like, I feel and I look the same. But if you have a dog next to you that you notice it gets pretty drained by this, and like if you have that choice, then it becomes quite a bit easier, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I would consider him drained after a half an hour walk. He's just more
just relatively. Everything's relative.
More calm. Yeah. Not quite as hyper.
What kind of dog is he again?
He is. We don't know. Yeah, he's a rescue. So a little bit.
He is we don't know.
Yeah, we have no idea. We've thought about getting one of those DNA tests. You ever heard of those?
Oh my god, dude! Oh my god, just instant. I hadn't actually thought of this in a long time because I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
And we never got to it. We never did do it. And with Oscar, we were pretty sure, I think Chelsea might have actually known for a fact that he was a Jack Russell Chihuahua cross. But Charlie was a rescue as well. Like, a friend of mine found her in a shopping cart at Northgate Future Shop. And we kind of figured just by the look of her that she was some cross of like Border Collie and Corgi, which, man, that's interesting. Like, just she was so stubby and very derpy, but the markings and quite a lot of like behaviorally Border Collie. But when I met Chelsea and just in the last couple of years, she's like, I think maybe some golden retriever as well. So it was when we started having those conversations, we're like, we should get one of those, whatever they do, the cotton swab things. Check that out. And
well, if nothing
that's
else,
too late.
Like, it would be nice because everybody always asks, right? And I don't know what the answer.
Yeah.
So they're like, what kind of dog do you have? What kind of dog is he? When they see him on the street, and it's like, I have no idea. So
and what do you think?
We think probably some German Shepherd, probably some Staffy, maybe Mastiff.
Yeah.
He's a big boy. He's like about 85 pounds.
He has to be to handle this weather.
Yeah. And he's got a thicker coat than it looks like, too. Like, you really don't notice it until he goes for a swim in the summer. Like, he's just a sponge. It just he stays wet forever. So yeah, anyways, that's Paxton.
Yeah, man. Oh, I love it. How have you been otherwise, though, man? You good?
Good. Busy.
You seem just always just like, you're just good. Like, you're just rock solid, man. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
I'm up and down all the time. I'm a freaking yo-yo.
Yeah, well.
No, you're good. You're good, man. Yeah, it's good to hear. Miles, well, now you've adopted since the last time you were on the show.
I have. Yes, we have. Last May, the end of May of last year, we actually it was mid-May. We got the call, and we ended up getting him. He was about just under 3 months when we got him. So right at the end of May. Yeah, and it's been awesome. It's been a lot, of course, but it's been awesome.
Yeah. Are you sharing pictures like at all in the Discord? I know you on Twitter every once in a while we got him jumping around and smiling.
Maybe a couple.
Yeah. Nothing can prepare you for this sort of thing, huh?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, for sure. It definitely a lot less sleep than I ever have had in the past.
Yeah.
Although, frankly, my wife has taken on a lot of that. I mean, we've spoken offline on some of the stuff.
For
So
sure.
he's got a kind of a complex medical situation. So one of the things that he has is he's on a tube feed. So he gets
Yeah.
fed overnight. So she's up with him at least twice every night. One to kind of top off the feed, and then one to kind of stop the pump.
Mm-hmm.
And then any other time. So that's pretty much every night.
Yeah.
That she's doing that. So yeah, she's been a rock star in that respect for sure.
How do you like that? You're looking at basically a lifetime of care, I imagine, for him. Like, how do you? Is it just day to day? Seem like it's almost like a cliche thing to say. Like you go like just take one day at a time. Like how does it not kind of like become overwhelming to look at what's kind of ahead of you guys in terms of basically for the rest of your lives?
Well, I don't think I would say that we're looking at a lifetime of care. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff early on.
Yeah.
So maybe to give people a bit of a sense. So he's got a rare genetic disease. It's just a single gene mutation. And one of the big things, or kind of the main thing that is a result of this thing, is the bones in his head fuse a lot earlier than they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the main thing. But then he has a few other things like hearing loss, and the reason he's on a feeding tube is because he has trouble swallowing. So he wasn't able to suck on a bottle. He never really learned how to suck on a bottle. And so we have to give him his formula through a tube. So those are some of the main things. But so right now we're kind of dealing with some of those bones that have fused. So he's already had one surgery, in the summer to open up some bones that have fused. And we kind of been crossing our fingers, hoping that, because you never really know what might happen. And we've just recently found out that he'll require at least another surgery to open up some additional sutures, some initial bones that had fused in his head. So we're looking at a surgery at the end of the month. We just got a date booked. Hopefully things don't get delayed or pushed back or anything like that. But right now we're looking at the end of the month. So
is that still happening? I know you're probably in touch with the hospitals probably much more than most of us. Like, is that still a thing? I know it was a while ago that other types of surgeries and other types of bookings or appointments were being moved because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
Like, is that still?
I think there's still, at least where we are here, they're still working through a backlog of a lot of stuff that had gotten canceled in the fall. So everything is prioritized, right? And, I'd like to think that, a cranial surgery on a 10-month-old baby that could affect his development, in addition to he's having some symptoms, is the pressure in his head is causing him to vomit pretty regularly, which is, so he's experiencing some nausea and stuff like that. So anyways, we're a little bit concerned, but they don't tell you. Like, it's not like we're in at the clinic, they say, well, we could have booked you in two weeks earlier, or we could have had you in a month before, but
you wouldn't want to know.
Because of all this COVID,
you would never want to know that.
I kind of do, but
the coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Just because then I would be mad, and then I could have a reason to be mad, and now I'm just like, there's just an unknown. I don't know how much of it is actually affecting his care. But once we kind of address some of these things, like, one of the things that these kids don't have any cognitive, or there's not an expectation that he's at any higher risk for having cognitive impairment than any other kid. So his syndrome that he has doesn't have any of that. So certainly there may be some kind of like mechanical stuff that he's dealing with the rest of his life. The hearing loss is probably going to be something that he's going to experience his whole life. It could change a little bit. It could improve as his bones kind of shift in his head, because it's really just related. The hearing loss is related to the orientation of his bones in his ears. So that could change a little bit, but he's going to have a degree of hearing loss his entire life.
Right.
But in terms of like kind of daily function, he's on track. Other than being small, which is another thing that we've talked about in the past, he's developing as any other 10-month-old. He's hitting all his developmental benchmarks in that respect. So we don't anticipate there being like there will always be probably like medical stuff that has to go in for checkups and things like that, but he should be able to live a relatively normal life, which is cool.
Good. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
On the hearing loss is like, and again, like in terms of how it impacts you guys, like, is it to the degree that you'll have to learn to sign to him? Like, is that part of it, or will he hear you be able to speak to him? Like, yeah, how does that work?
So he has hearing aids. Right now, I guess what they do with kids his age is, again, the type of hearing loss that he has, it's like bone, like it's because the bones are not. So he basically just needs the sound amplified.
Yeah.
So basically they're like little vibrators that he wears on like a headband, and they sit right behind each ear. And you can actually test it out. They showed us how to do this, where you can like plug your ears and then you put an adapter and you can just put it there and you can kind of hear like he would hear, which is pretty wild and really, really useful. It kind of it was like revelatory for me, for sure. It was like, because I didn't know, because when we first got the hearing aids, we put them on him and he never seemed to react to us. And I was like, what's going on?
I saw videos on YouTube where they just like their minds explode.
Exactly. So it's, first off, it's not that type of hearing loss, which I found out. So that's part of it. He was always probably hearing a certain amount. They don't think he's hearing a lot, but probably a little bit. But the other thing is, with these hearing aids is it's a little bit difficult to orient where the sound is coming from. So he could hear something, but he doesn't necessarily know that it's coming from me on the side of him.
Interesting.
So he's not going to. So he wouldn't turn his head because he doesn't. He can hear it, but he's not necessarily associating that sound with me, at least initially, right?
Right.
He started definitely reacting to sound a little bit more. The bigger issue is really just keeping them on his head. He doesn't like them. There's also a little bit of probably some pressure in his head, so he's always pulling them off, right? So that's the tricky part. We actually have an appointment with a speech language pathologist next week to do the kind of the first like language sessions.
Yeah.
So to get back to your original question, I don't think that they really do sign language all that often, especially maybe with him in the type of hearing loss that he has. He can hear with these hearing aids. So I think that they want to encourage, and I'm kind of speaking from a position of ignorance because I don't really know anything about this. Like, I think that they want to promote kind of like verbal language if they can. Yeah. And if there's reason not to. And I think that that's kind of the route that we're at least going to try initially. And I think, and one of the things that they told us in a meeting that we had kind of with the whole kind of like language development team maybe a couple months ago was there's some hybrid forms as well. There's probably not a scenario in which we would only do sign language with him. Yeah. Maybe kind of some where you do verbal plus some signs. But the way that they've been talking, and my wife deals with most of these types of appointments. So I think it sounds as though we'll be doing just verbal stuff. Yeah. Which is good. I mean, it's a little bit easier. We would have done whatever is best for him. But,
that's obvious. Yeah, you definitely would have. Yeah.
Yeah. But if we don't have to, I mean, and it's one thing for us to be able to do sign language, but that means like my parents would have to learn a little bit of it, all Lindsay's family and all of that stuff. So it's a lot. It's a bit more of a burden for it. So if we don't have to go that route, it's just a little bit easier. That's all.
Well, that's why that's actually the origin of the question. Really, was just like it impacts lives. I think in ways that I don't know. Like because I grew up with a couple of kids who are hard of hearing. And all their families. It was all signing, and so I just kind of saw it somewhat firsthand, I guess, of just like how far-reaching that can really be, and how suddenly, on top of everything else, you kind of have to adopt another. I don't know, just another thing to learn. Like you're just. Everything you're kind of saying tonight and every time that we chat, it's like there's something else for you to dive into and to understand, and like what causes this and what's the future going to look like prognoses and everything. So it just seems like a lot, man. Like I don't know how, like, are you coping? Every time we chat, you just seem, like I said, you just seem like good. But like, I don't know how you manage to do that,
some
dude.
Some days are better, or I guess some days are worse than others, but most days are pretty okay. I think we're pretty, analytical about this stuff and just trying to do what's best for him. And I think we've talked about this too, is that he is way more happy than he has any right to be. Like, like even when like he's, I think I mentioned earlier, he's vomiting a fair amount, like at least almost on a daily basis right now. And he'll vomit, you can see it coming on, and he gets sick, and then 2 minutes later, he is the smiliest, and he's bouncing around in his crib, and he wants to play, and he's just like lights up a room. So it's it's easier to focus on that stuff, and this other stuff is just stuff that you just have to do. It's not necessarily a negative. It just is. It is what it is.
You could handle anything after this, man. Like that's the thing. Like you're a normal newborn would be like, yeah, we can easy peasy, man. You're just like everything is just cranked up. The difficulty notch is just like way up to 10. And you just handle it
because we don't have a frame of reference. So I think that I often kind of lament that we don't know in terms of him, but I think there's an aspect of it in that it probably protects us a little bit, is that we don't know how much easier in quotation marks it might be with a kid that doesn't have all this stuff. This is the only thing that we've ever experienced, so this is just our frame of reference, right? Just is what it is. It's not like we had another kid before who didn't have any of the medical issues, and now we're like, oh my God, this is so much more than that.
Yeah, that's true. Just different from when it was before any kids at all. Yeah. On that note, like, I don't even know if I have an answer for this own question for myself, but I'll ask it to you anyways. Like, has there been a moment where you kind of step back and went like, I'm a dad. Like now I'm a dad. I'm raising this kid.
To say that. It still feels weird. I mean, we've had for I guess about 8 months or almost 8 months now, and it still feels weird to refer, like, because Lindsay will refer to me as dad, and herself, I refer to her as mom, obviously, to him, and it still feels a little weird. I got to be honest. Yeah, it because I mean, I'm sure you've experienced, you're the same person. Yeah. I never necessarily associate myself as dad before. Now I am. So yeah, it's still a little strange.
It's weird because I think just, before you reach these milestones in life, you see other people who are there, and you imagine maybe it's just me, like some sort of like ribbon that you cross over, or some sort of like milestone, like set of fireworks that goes off that like marks the new territory, but it just sort of like happens on another day. Like however it ends, however these kids enter our lives, like it sort of just happens it's on a Tuesday or it's on a Wednesday. It's not on like, the rest of the world stands still and this thing kind of happens and suddenly you are on bended knee and anointed, like you are now a dad. It's just, I don't know. Like, and I like to think about that stuff every once in a while. And as the kids have kind of started talking as well, like and talking to me, especially differently from Chelsea, like that's a pretty unique thing where they know that I would prefer to do this, that, or the other, and that Chelsea would actually prefer to do, like they identify us as separate people, and they want to do different things with each of us. Like that's pretty new, and that's I think that's where that it's starting to click more so than even before. Where I think in the early days for me, it was like a little bit about just like keeping this kid alive, just like keeping myself alive to the next day, and just making sure we get through. So it's fun. I don't know. I like kind of like reflecting on those kind of things every once in a while, because it's a huge deal, man. Like being a dad and being a parent is a massive deal. Definitely, it's a game changer. And you guys especially you were on a long road towards this. Yeah.
It had been a while. It had definitely been a while. Yeah.
How many years were you guys looking to adopt for?
Looking to adopt, we were on the list for 4.5 years. Yeah. For that, and then we had kind of been dealing with infertility for about 7 prior to that.
That is amazing.
It's been a long road here. So I mean, and I think that's maybe a bit of why it's easier to look past some of the challenges too, because this is something that has been a long time coming, that we've wanted for quite a long time. So everything kind of like all the good stuff tastes sweeter, and the bad stuff doesn't taste quite as bad. So
How do you mentioned there are some days are not as good as other days. I think that's how you put it, something like that. What's your outlet? How do you let the frustrations out? How do you just like not have that impact you in a lasting way?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm good at that. I don't. That's actually a really good question. I don't know. I think maybe getting to this stuff. I think having communities like yours, and like I think that just having something else that I can at least spend a little bit of time, whether it's in the Discord or playing games, or just something to just not focus so much on that bad stuff, or some of the. I hesitate to even say bad, just like things that are like maybe overwhelming. Just to take a bit of a break from it. So I think that probably helps a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I guess I do look at this stuff at very, very practically, very analytical. So, I don't, for better or for worse, I don't maybe let emotion get too much into it. And I just try to look at the steps that need to do to make things better.
That's got to be better. There can't be a worse to that. The better or worse, I don't think that there can be a worse to that. I think that's exactly how it's got to go.
Yeah.
Distraction is definitely something that resonates with me big time, because like, I don't know, sometimes it can lead me to just flipping on stupid YouTube for like a ridiculous amount of time, and that's definitely something that I've noticed of myself. But I think that distraction is the common theme, and maybe that's why our phones are so addicting to us. Like I've never really, I think I've talked about this before. Like I oftentimes I'll hear people talk about video games as their escapism. And for years and years, I heard that and kind of went like, that didn't resonate with me very much. But lately, I think over the last couple of years, I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I think too, like, life is for the most part really good. Like for the vast majority, it's really good. And every once in a while, things can get overwhelming, and suddenly I want to, just go escape into a video game or a ridiculous number of YouTube shorts. But ultimately it is, I think, distraction that I'm looking for.
Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, it's like, I don't know, maybe it's the same one and the same, but I kind of look at it as a break. It just it's not, I guess it, I'm not trying to necessarily forget the other stuff. It's more just to put it on pause for a second and let me just kind of, take some time for myself and relax and just focus on something else. So I guess that could be considered a distraction, but I'm not sure that I'm trying to like ignore the problem and ignore anything. It's more just to take a break from it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that too. I don't know why I remember this so vividly. Because my memory has been on display many times on this show and everything else, every other interaction I've ever had. My memory can be shoddy at best, but for whatever reason, I have a very vivid memory multiple times of my mom would be a mom 1,000% of the time, except for 12 p.m. until 1 p.m. when All My Children was on. It was her time for soap opera. Her stories? Yeah, her stories were on. She grabbed some cottage cheese and some peaches, and that was her break. And I remember her talking about that in a way of like, that was her time and how important it was for her to have her hour. And that's basically all that she got because 4 kids at home and she was just on the whole time. And that I remember that now. I don't know that there was ever a time in my life where I haven't been thinking about that, but it resonates even more strongly now where I'm like, and I get more than an hour. That's the thing. Like I look at her, she literally had an hour and that was it. And then she's back to us and back to making dinner and back to getting us off to whatever we were doing. And so those are, I think, are important, I don't know, memories to have and points of reference, at least for me as the kids get a little bit older. Are you do you look to memories like that as a kid? Do you look to your parents for role model moments? Is it even applicable given everything you guys are going through?
Yeah, I think so. I guess I'm not consciously, not right now. I think that because I have one brother and he's 3 years younger than me, so I don't really remember him as an infant. So I guess I can't look and think too much about how my parents kind of dealt with that really us very young.
That's fair. And so that I'm clear too, like I'm definitely thinking about like us older, and that is something that I had to come to realize as I was really struggling with Lincoln back in the early days, was that somebody asked me like, what's your point of reference? And I had this realization, I'm like, I don't remember my parents when we were this young. So I have no idea like what they were doing. They're probably dropping us, like, for all I know. Like, I have no idea. So like that's, I'm definitely remembering things like later on in life, as my kids are now, Lincoln will be 5 in April, which is bonkers to even like say aloud, holy crap, I was looking forward to Ellie's birthday not too long ago, and now that's happened. So I guess a little different just with Miles being as young as he is. Definitely hard to remember your own experience at 3.
So I mean, I think that definitely, I think anybody is going to look to their experiences, again, good ones and bad ones, to try to emulate or to avoid. So I can't think of any particular examples at the moment, but I'm sure it's going to come up.
And these are the types of things I probably should actually just tell my parents rather than talk about. It's probably for the best. Well, and I'm so glad that you've been willing to share everything, and I've just been, I don't know, man. I look to you guys as just you're absolutely stellar parents. Like, he's so lucky to have you, taking care of him and raising him, and it's just great to see, dude. So
no, he's a lucky kid all around, I think. He's got a big kind of group around him, not only just kind of us and our families, but his birth family is still in his life pretty regularly. We just had a FaceTime call with his birth parents yesterday. They're doing good, and he got to see his sisters, and it was great. And they'll be in his life for as long as they want to be. And I don't anticipate that drying up. They're awesome. He's got a big group around him that's looking out for him.
That's good, man. That's great. I love it. Well, you've taken on even more responsibility lately. And speaking of community and everything else, there was for anybody who hasn't been listening to the show for long, but Delroy was on the show probably about a half a year ago at this stage, and I don't even remember exactly how it came up, but the thought of like a video game book club, an opportunity for community members just to get together and pick a game, play it, and then get together and kind of chat about it has, like, for a while seemed like a bit of a pipe dream, like, good idea. How is that ever going to happen? And then I actually don't even know, was it you or him who who reached out to who? Were you listening to the show and reached out to him to decide this is something you guys wanted to do?
I think, if I remember, the way it worked was I had listened to the show, and I think I might have commented in the Discord, say, yes, you guys I'm all in on a book club, like not volunteering. And I think you said it's on you. And I was like, okay, let's. And then Delroy, I think, jumped right back in and said, I'd be happy to do this with you. So then we, I guess, got your blessing more or less, and kind of got off running with that, and kind of batted around some ideas, and
it's funny because there's been a couple times it's been like references like either a blessing or you've allowed us to do this. Like, I want to be like crystal clear. This thing doesn't happen if it's not driven by you guys. Like, this is something that I have a really hard time with a lot of times, because I'm so excitable by great ideas all the time. And it's like, this is where I think my fear of missing out comes from a lot, where I just see something looks awesome. I think that should happen, whether it's for me or whatever. Like, it's quite often not even for me. And that gets me into some situations where people don't understand that I just want cool things to happen for somebody else. And it seems like, because I'm so excited about it, it seems almost like I'm coming from a selfish position about it. But this is something that couldn't happen without you guys. I wasn't about to start it. It's not like something that was like in the works and you guys kind of took over. It was just like, I think the only thing that really Ryan and or I really do is like, we already had a Discord full of people. That was basically it. And one of the times this summer, I was even chatting with you, like, because I've been doing content for so long, I'm so removed from just playing games and not making content about it. I'm like, how the heck do you even do that? this gives you, I think, that opportunity to play a game with a little bit of like that end state in mind of like, you're going to get together, you're going to just talk about it. Because how often does that happen? Like, this is the part that I didn't understand. Yeah. How do you play a game and like turn to nobody in your house who wants to talk about this thing? Like, that sounds awful to me, man. So talk to me about like, about the Backtrackers and how it's going so far, my friend.
I think it went exceptionally well. I couldn't have hoped for anything better than what we did
nice.
On Saturday. Yeah, it was perfect. So, we announced the game. I think we gave people 3 weeks to play Death's Door, and it was kind of over the holiday break. And it seemed like there was a fair amount of interest in the Discord. We had lots of people engaging. A lot of people had said that they were at least going to try it out. Some people played it, were not necessarily able to make the meeting, but we ended up having 4 additional people plus Delroy and I. So there were 6 of us in chatting about Death's Door. Delroy and I came up with a bit of a structure for the discussions. We kind of had some questions ahead of time that we had shared, just so that we could get people, we're not catching them off guard. They might have some opportunity to think about things in advance. And it was awesome. I think that we had, we were chatting for almost 2 hours. It was really good. It was awesome. We're plowing ahead and going to do another one in a couple of weeks. So we're moving along. We'll see. Like, I think that we'll probably have, if I had to guess, I think we'll probably have people that do most games. Yeah. And kind of do the regular cycle just like Delroy and myself. And then they'll have people that will kind of dip in and out and that's totally fine. It doesn't matter to us. You don't have to finish the game to kind of be a part of it, as long as you've kind of played enough and you don't mind being, I guess, spoiled if you don't. And even if you didn't like the game, I think that, all of those kind of perspectives are interesting. I don't think that you have to be a champion and everybody's just gushing about a game. I think we want to be critical a little bit too and talk about things that weren't so good or could have worked better. And so, it was really nice. It was just really good. We had a great group on Saturday, and I can't say anything more. Like, it was as good as we could have expected. It was awesome.
Well, the best thing is, maybe among other great things, is just like whoever shows up, we just happen to know that like the Discord community in particular is just full of just amazingly stand-up people. We're so lucky that we can put a call out and go like open to anybody, and you don't have like a complete psychopath showing up. You've got amazing people coming in, and I love this because for a variety of reasons, I didn't join you guys. One, when you originally announced Death's Door, I'm like, perfect. This has been the calling I've been waiting for, because this has been on my sort of backlog. I started it and didn't really get back to it, and I do think that that's something that the Backtrackers is actually going to be doing for me and perhaps some other people, is just like jog either our memory or our attention away from meandering around with games or not really sure what to do next. It's like, here's some focus. Here's a spotlight on something that you can finish, and there will be an end state where you almost like, you just need to commit to this until this date, and then we're going to chat about it. So for me personally, like, those are all things that like resonate big time. But the other thing that I wanted to do was ask you about it as somebody who wasn't there. As you mentioned, there was 4 other people, 6 in total. So there was other people who are part of the community who weren't a part of the conversation. What are the types of like things that you go over? Like, you mentioned maybe spoiler type of stuff, but like, what types of conversations, what types of questions are you asking everybody to go through and think about?
So we talk. I think we started the conversation talking about kind of overall impressions of the game, kind of things we liked, things we didn't like. Whether it because Death's Door is a fairly celebrated game, reviewed quite well. Whether that was deserved. And then we kind of got.
Now I have to ask about that. Like, what was the group thinking? Like, was it deserved? It was game of the year, man.
I think that
snubbed.
the general consensus, I mean, I think that we kind of probably self-selected to a certain extent, right?
Sure.
Because people that have finished the game that probably really liked the game are probably more inclined to come and want to show up on a Saturday and talk for the game for about 2 hours, right? But so I think that for the most part, people thought the accolades that it had received were pretty justified.
Yeah.
I think a few people didn't think that. Like some people, I know that people have said that it's their favorite game of the entire year. It's the best game of the year. I think some people in our group thought that was probably a little much.
Yeah.
But it's still a very good game.
Yeah.
So, and then we kind of gotten into some of the specifics. I know that one of the things I distinctly remember one of you talking about Death's Door, the lack of a map.
Maps.
And how big of a problem that was. And you're not the only one that said that. So we talked about that. We talked about whether it was a problem for anybody in our conversation, and I think that specifically for Death's Door, like that was an intentional decision. It's not like they just forgot to put a map in. They didn't want to put a map in.
Yeah.
So could they have done other things in lieu of a map that might have helped the player navigate the kind of the areas a little bit better, or stuff like that. And so then we kind of, I guess, focused more, like there were some questions that maybe or discussion topics that could be really applied to any game.
Sure.
And then there's others that were very more specific. Death's Door has been referred to as a Souls-like game. Do you agree or disagree? So we talked about that. So, and we finished off our conversation kind of with everybody's thoughts on recommendations for other people within the group about similar. If you really love Death's Door, what other games would you recommend to the group here to check out? So
that sounds amazing. And again, like this is something that I think if Ryan or I were sort of leading, you would get a very different set of conversations, different set of questions, because we've been doing this for so long. I think that like we kind of settle in some ways on like how we talk about games, and hearing you even just like craft the questions and the way that you're going to drive these conversations, it like causes me just to think and maybe even reapproach my own like review of games, and I review in quotes, like how I just kind of think about them. I like to think that I'm pretty thoughtful, but in some cases, especially on like the Xbox Drive and Nintendo Drive, like we're very fast, and it's not until we really get into like an extra mile where we start to break things down. But like right there, like you just brought up, I think like 3 or 4 pretty fundamental questions that like get to the meat of this game. Like when you talk about choices that developers make, I think it just changes the complete angle that you're even looking at this game at. And it changes you from like just a regular gamer to like, it puts yourself into another set of shoes. Like why did they choose this? What were they trying to achieve by not having a map? And then also looking at like how it impacted the player experience. So somebody like me, I bounced off for that reason, and maybe for a variety of other reasons. But yeah, like that's why I'm really excited. I wanted to celebrate you guys just for taking the lead on this, because it's going to be different. It's going to be a different experience than people would typically get when they consume whatever Yumi Capri content they're already consuming, I think.
Well, I think that one of the things that at least, well, both Delroy and I, but I know that from my perspective, at least, I don't maybe not speak for Delroy, but I really wanted to look to like book clubs, like a traditional book club as a inspiration for this. Not that I've ever been a part of a traditional book club, but at least what I envision a traditional book club to.
We all understand this concept. Like who of us has been part of a book club?
Exactly. But like kind of like talking about like, so Death's Door, although maybe the narrative, like the story in Death's Door is probably deeper than certainly I appreciated it the first time I went through the game. Yeah. It's still not a narrative. It's not really a strong narrative, but I think that for games that do have a much stronger narrative, or the narrative is a much more important component of the game, we'll talk about the themes and the actual like the story a lot more than we might have for this particular game. So I mean those are the types of things I think that we want to hit on and dive deeper into. Yeah.
What do you think about like the appetite in the community? Like, why do you think there was such a there really was quite a reaction to this? Like, we announced it. I don't know about you, but like, I don't know. Like, did you have expectations? Like, we would announce this thing and like, I don't know. Like, I guess the question is, how has it? How is the community response to it kind of compared to what you were expecting before we revealed to the world what this thing was all about?
I was, I guess, pleasantly surprised. I mean, I think whenever you start anything, and maybe you probably can speak to this.
Oh, yes.
You don't want it to get nothing. To just kind of flop and just kind of like so. We had certainly prepared. Delroy and I had, when we in our early discussions, we're like, you know what? If it's just you and I talking about any game, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
So we were okay with very little, but so it did seem to resonate with people. I think that people really did like the idea of picking a game, being able to kind of go through it, being able to have the opportunity to talk about it. And again, maybe you're not even able to make the meeting, but at least you know that other people are playing the game. You can post non-spoilery stuff in the Discord to talk a little bit about it. And I think there's something that is just inherently appealing about that for people in the community. I know it was something that I was looking for, which is why, we, stepped up to kind of take the lead on it. So yeah.
I think it speaks to something that like really was one of the original kind of thoughts and seeds to this show, which was, I remember I've talked about this before, but it's worth mentioning because it's I think relevant to this conversation, that like I would write into a show like Married to the Games, who were great because they read every question, every comment, answer to their questions that anybody would send in, especially in the early days. I think now they're too big to get to everybody, but that was always such a wonderful experience where I would write in and then like listen a couple days later and they go like, we got an answer from Sean Capri, and they would say this, and I would be elated to have them just like see me and recognize me and have my voice be a part of their show, so to speak. And this would happen across a variety of different shows, but definitely most notably that one, because they turned to the community so instantly, and that jumped out to me. This show, We the GamerCast, was like an extension of that. I'm like, well, if that feels good to have your question read on a show, how good would it feel to be like on the show, like participating and being able to explore the thoughts, like instead of just being a listener, you get to participate, and that's this. And I feel like the book club, like the Backtrackers, is that for the game. Like that's something that I haven't actually like, that's a box I haven't checked off with this one, in that like, hey, you're going to play a game. It's something I probably could do, but I like it better as a community thing. Like pick a game, you guys decide what's next. And I want to get into your mentality around that, your approach to what games you are selecting. But I think that this is something that, for the most part, just numbers wise, even though it seems like everybody and their dog has a podcast, most people don't. Most people are listening to other people talking about the great time they had with this game or the terrible time they had with that game. And so, you're providing an opportunity for people to have that voice, get in front of a microphone and just kind of chat with others and try out their critical thought muscles, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And I think that like the Discord is great, and we can, I might be playing a game. I might be playing Deathloop, and I can post in there like who is playing Deathloop, but chances are nobody's playing Deathloop at the same time as me.
Right. Yes.
Right. And I think there's something to being able to kind of go through that experience together as a community. And I think that just takes it to another level that is really appealing.
I'm with you, man. I've definitely noticed that over the years of like, it's usually what happens that aligns people into playing the same game at the same time is that it comes out. It's, it's a new game. Like that's the best chance anybody has, but Game Pass changes things a little bit. And then this, we can kind of, I don't know, you can kind of dictate that a little better. Like just draw some attention to it, draw some focus. Yeah.
And, I think that you want to go here. So like we really do want to focus on games. We don't want to focus on the big AAA releases.
Right.
We don't want to focus on the games that everybody has already played. We want to try to focus on games that got maybe overlooked, that were maybe quite well received perhaps, but not necessarily ones that the Death's Door, which was very well received and actually probably pretty decently played, but although we found out in the Discord there was a lot of people that hadn't played it. I think some people may not have even heard of it, and so we want to focus on those types of games. Smaller is generally, I think, better because it'll allow us. Like if we're picking a game that the campaign takes 40 hours or 50 hours, that just stretches out the amount of time you want to give people to play it. Like somebody like Ryan might be able to get through a 40 or 50 hour game in a week. Yeah. But I'm not going to. That's going to take me a month and a half, maybe 2 months. So
I'm with you.
Right. So that's not the types of games we want to typically pick. The other thing, I guess, is that we chose Death's Door. We've chosen the second game as well, Forgotten City, but we've also outlined how we're going to be choosing games going forward, and we want the community choosing those games.
Nice.
So the way that we're going to do it is we're going to have one, to maybe encourage people to show up, to come to the meetings if they can, but also we don't want to put it up to just a popular vote, because it ends up being that the most popular game wins, which can be okay, but it also means that if you happen to be somebody who likes games that are not always the most popular, that your choice of game may never ever win a popular vote. So what we want to do is just allow a random person who happens to attend the meeting to pick the next game. And we kind of took that as well from like a book club, so a traditional book club, where they could probably just go around the room and everybody gets a turn to pick a book, the next book, right? And so we kind of want to do something similar, recognizing that it may not always be the same people in the room. So
that's really smart.
Yeah.
Is the game that they're picking like from a selection of games, like you say, here's 5 that you can choose from, you get to pick one of these, or are they pretty wide open?
They're pretty wide open, kind of within just don't do a AAA game. Try to shorter is better. If you can think of, and also like the more accessible, the better. So like not everybody has all the platforms.
Yeah.
So the more platforms that the game might be on, that's a better thing.
Oh,
and then, something that you can also think that will be interesting to talk about. Like I think that some games were probably better suited for a book club idea than others, right? So these might be games that you like. I could see a community member picking a game that they know very well and have played, front back multiple times, but they don't really know anybody else that's played it, and they think it's great, and they really want to share it with the community. And I think that's a completely valid reason to choose a game for the community to play for this. So
UN Squadron, bring it back, man. This is what I'm talking about. I'm telling you.
It doesn't have to be, and it does. So our first 2 games, like I said, Death's Door and the Forgotten Cities number 2, those are pretty recent games, but it doesn't have to be that. They could be older games too. And so, I mean, I think that those kind of loose things. So we're not going to. We did bat around the idea of kind of like selecting a few to have the person pick from, but I feel like that might be a little too restrictive. And at the end of the day, I want the community to kind of feel like they're a part of this too. And if we're just the ones that are dictating it, then it's just our book club that you happen to be coming in on. And I want it to feel like everybody's book club.
That's such a good approach. Let's talk about the notion of like, how does one participate in this if they're not able to complete the entire game? Like, is there an approach that you guys had with Death's Door, or is there something that you would want to adjust so that you could really make it clear to people that like there is a way to participate without worrying about maybe spoilers? Like, is there a certain point in a conversation you go like, now we're in spoiler territory? Is that how you approach Death's Door? Is that something that that you want to kind of open the doors to people who can't finish the entire thing?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think that we haven't figured all that stuff out yet.
Of course.
So for these first 2 games, they're pretty short. Death's Door is relatively short. Forgotten City is like a 5 maybe 10 hour game. So they're relatively short. So I don't think that I wouldn't have expected people to have come in and want to discuss it, and but not had enough time. Maybe they could have stopped it because something wasn't working for them, or they didn't like an aspect of it, and they still wanted to be able to talk about it. But it probably wasn't because they ran out of time. But yeah, I think that's something to think about moving forward, is how to potentially accommodate somebody who still wants to be a part of the discussion, maybe of the first half of the game or something like that. Particularly if we're talking about games that are a little bit longer. So we're open to suggestions from the community, from yourself and from the community, of course, is in how to kind of approach any of these things. So just hit us up if you have some ideas on that sort of thing.
I think, and that's probably as leading as I'll be with my question about it, just to sort of like thinking about how to be as inclusive as possible. But I think to your point earlier, like, I very easily could say, like, I think you should do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I'm just like, and Ryan knows this as well as anybody else. Like, I'll come to the table with things and I'm loud and repetitive and all these things. And that can be detrimental, I think, to the community-centric focus that this thing has. Like that's, and especially with you and Delroy at the table, you're not short on ideas, and you're not short on like a really critical and well thought out approach to this thing. Like, I think I'd asked you too at some point, like, how do you choose the next game? Or I think I actually said something about maybe patrons can select the next game. You're like, well, actually, I think it might work out like this. And I'm like, yeah, you go with that. Like, that's that's a trillion times better. And that's, I don't know, like, whenever I see somebody who is like motivated and enthusiastic and well thought out, it's like, get the hell out of that person's way, man. Like, this is something really, really special that I loved. I was around. I saw the Backtracker, like the voice channel, kind of like saw it like light up, and I was really tempted to just like poke my head and kind of see how it was going. But I don't know, and maybe I'm thinking too much about this, but I just didn't want to take away from what it was, and what I saw just like honestly like just really warmed my heart that there were 6 people in there who found each other on the internet and played a game together, and we're in there just like, I don't know. I imagined the cacophony that was happening in that room of whatever, just discussions, like well thought out, critical thought, or just laughter or whatever. Like, it was really cool to see just the visual of the Backtrackers room, all these people kind of jumping in. And that's like, I think I tweeted out, like, that's something that Bobby and I chatted about for a long time, is having a community driven thing that can live, within the community that we don't have to do anything about. That's so, I think that makes it more special than if I were to tell you, this is the 5 things I want you to do. Like, I'd probably make it worse. Like, honestly, I think I probably would.
Well, and certainly open invitation for both you and Ryan to pop in at any point. Of course, play the game. But yeah, we'd love for you guys to come, and that obviously goes for anybody in the community, but don't ever hesitate about popping in there.
Well, it's funny. I think when you told me, or at some point I had learned that, because we want to share everything out and we want to promote this to the community and stuff. So I've been learning a little bit more about the games maybe than I typically would, but yeah, learning that, like, how long to beat, some are between like 4 to maybe 10 hours at the most. It's like, you have my attention, Marcus.
Yeah, I know.
Like, that hits with me, especially as Ryan Turford is about to 100% complete Dying Light 2 in about a weekend. Somehow. Right, he's on the other end of the spectrum, but I think we complement each other pretty nicely. So
he somehow gets through a game in that takes 500 hours, but he does it in only 400. Like,
proof of time travel is what that is. Honestly, exactly. He's got his. Oh my gosh, what kind of game is The Forgotten City? I think it's in a choice-based kind of narrative-driven game, almost like old school adventure kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a narrative adventure game. You're doing a lot of conversations, but there's also a time loop component to it.
Oh,
the year
travel.
2021, the year of time loop games, lots of time loop games. So, I don't want. I've started playing it. I'm probably 3 or 4 hours into it. It's really good. There is a lot of text though. There's a lot of reading. That isn't typically my thing. I think partly I'm taking some notes, like trying to.
Yes.
And that's helped, frankly, because I think had I not been, some of the text would just kind of be going past me. And then I'd be like, okay, well, what happened? Where am I? What's going on? But because I'm taking notes, and I don't think you need to. That's probably just a me thing.
I love it. No, I've taken like I the first game I ever like quote unquote reviewed was one of the first ones was Dragon Age Origins. I had a book full of notes on that thing, and so I love hearing when people have notes, and it of course reminds me of Donnie Reese comes to the table. I have some notes.
But and I think this is valid. I heard this ahead of time. You don't want to know too much about the game. Period, because it really does, and I think that's probably best. So beyond that, I think if it's something that you're interested in, it's relatively short. I would check it out, play it for a little bit, and see if it's ticking the boxes. One of the things I think that it does well is it does leave a bit of a breadcrumb trail for you. So it kind of identifies objectives that you can kind of do. Like it's not just a completely open thing where it's not giving you a heck of a lot of direction. Like there is, checkpoints and things to kind of like tasks to do and things like that. So that at least provides a more of a structure, which helps me into the types of games that I tend to enjoy. So it's been really, really good so far. Delroy, I think, just it last night. So
I love it. I love knowing that other people, this is the whole thing, man. It's the whole point of it. Other people playing at the same time. You see the pace that other people are playing it at. I think that's all. There's a meta to this whole thing. Which I think is really interesting. I love it, man. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of like chat about with the Backtrackers? Anything on when is the next meeting? I know that we've chatted about it in the Discord, but when can people look forward to this?
Yeah, so I'm not sure when you're going to be posting this one, but we're going to be meeting on January 22nd, 11 a.m. Eastern. In the Discord, there's a voice channel. We do a video chat. So
love it. Yeah. Patrons will have a full week. Free feeds will have about 6 days. Okay. But really, an evening, maybe 2 evenings of this game. You're next up. So that's kind of how this works. So hopefully enough time for that. And it's something that I think we're just going to be baking into a lot of the content across all the shows. It's just like quick heads up. It'll be, part of the cleaning the garage, part of the housekeeping stuff that we do is like the next Backtrackers game is this, jump in the Discord, go play, meet with people. So cool, man. Like it's real. It's now happening. You've started a thing. Now, once you start, you can't stop because,
no.
obligations.
Well, and I think I had mentioned, I don't know if this will make things easier or not, but I'm going to be off on parental leave at the end of the month. So I don't know if that'll give me more time or maybe
Dying
less.
Light, perfect timing, man.
Maybe,
I love it, man. Well, you're crushing it on pretty much every front, man. And I appreciate you. And I mean, we could have had a chat about The Matrix, but I think we'll maybe leave that for another time. I don't even know if there's really much to discuss. We saw a movie.
We did.
It exists.
We did, yes.
It exists. Do you want to let anybody know where to find you on the Twitters and in the Discords? I think it's all the links are in the show notes, but do you want to draw people's attention to any of those places? Sure.
So on Twitter, I am Marcus O'Neill 79. It's probably the easiest way to find me.
Very cool, man. Well, thanks again for carving out time tonight to chat. Now that it's finally warm enough for our internet cables to work and everything.
That's right.
It's all good, man. Well, thanks again, dude. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just taking it one day at a time, man. Great advice. Great conversation with Marcus O'Neill. He's like my Sherpa through life, man. I always appreciate chatting with Marcus. And now here he is making the community an even better, brighter, more awesome place with the Backtrackers. Like I said, you guys, if you want to jump in, maybe you weren't thinking about it at the beginning. Maybe after the chat now you're like, I got to get in on this. If you don't have Game Pass, but you have an Xbox, reach out to me. I've got one code, first come, first serve. Otherwise, it is on Game Pass. It's on all the things. I just love how, did you know that he was this thoughtful about stuff? I bet you didn't. I bet you thought he was pretty thoughtful, but kind of next level. Him and Delroy with this Backtrackers thing, man. I'm very proud of it. I'm very happy that this is something that people can look forward to. I can't wait to see where it goes. I can't wait for you to jump on in. Go ahead. Do it. It's awesome. And who knows where it's gonna, this is the start. You want to say you were there from the beginning. You know what I mean? You guys can follow me on Twitter at Sean Capri, Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. All the links in the show notes, all the things that you want to do, you know, like support Johnathan Brown with his new music, links in the show notes. Join the Discord, links in the show notes. Support us on Patreon. You guessed it. The link is in the show notes. And I don't mean like my son link. By the way, when are we going to get a new link? A new Zelda game. Lincoln came up to me the other day. Chelsea's birthday's coming up on the 23rd, and he said, I think mommy should have a Zelda birthday, because the kids always get a themed birthday. Chelsea goes all out, and now, of course, Chelsea's birthday's coming up, and Lincoln, being the thoughtful little kid that he is, like, what kind of theme is she gonna get? So here we go, you guys. We're gonna have a Zelda-themed birthday for my wife. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. What else do I want to tell you? I think that's it. I hope you guys are doing good. Hopefully this brought a smile to your face. I hope that today is better than yesterday and tomorrow's going to be even better than today. It just keeps getting better. But you know what? If it's not, that's okay. Join us in the Discord. We're all here to support each other. We say good morning to each other, which I actually think is very, very sweet. We continue to play Halo Saturdays, twitch.tv/Sean Capri. I feel like you guys all already do this, though. Like, it kind of feels silly to say because you all do the things all the time. And I'm just kind of blown away by it. The music is coming to an end. We end with this bit from Heavy Rain, and it's silly. And I hope you guys are doing great. I'll see you guys next week. Okay, bye-bye.
Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Sean, where are you? Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Jason! 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 Jason!